Hey everyone.
Hi.
Hi to everyone in the audience who are joining us today for our episode 0 of our event, which is called Small Talk. So very excited to be speaking both Jiaxing and Julius, who are also hosting this event today with me, and also to all of you who are in the audience. Very very big welcome to all of you who I think most of you likely are watching this from our Pico channel on YouTube, or either that from our Facebook channel and also from GDG Singapore as well as Dev Space. All right, so let's get started with today's event.
Yep. Quick introduction. I'm Jiaxing from the Google Developer Relations team and representing Developer Space. So it's a physical space in Google Singapore office. But because of the pandemic, we have brought everything online. So I think a couple of you are watching from our Dev Space YouTube channel. Hi to you over there. And hopefully with the restrictions in Singapore, changing and all, I know we all can't wait for physical events to happen. Hopefully we'll be able to see everyone face to face real soon.
Right. So just to share a few of our social media accounts in regards to Big O development. So working together with Google Dev Space, our group today who's hosting this event, we're called Big O Development. And we're all around, doing in terms of events for that drives self-development of your careers. Right. So if you're interested in attending any of our events, do check out our different social media channels here, especially our site where we are always updating our events, like what we have for today, as well as our Facebook channel. This is where we actually post most of our updates for events that are coming on. For example, later I think we're going to be talking about a few more events that are going to be happening over the next month. And then don't forget, if you are watching this from our YouTube channel, to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yep, and similarly, you can follow all our updates on our website, and we are also on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.
All right, super cool. We also would like to invite you in our September event. Unfortunately, we don't have a date yet, so please follow us in Facebook, in our social media channels, and of course our community website as well. So what's going to happen is that in September, we will be inviting Andrew Lau from Jellyfish. And the idea is this. We are normally wrapped around our own context as a software engineer, working with our own architecture, our own, paradigm, so on and so forth. But it's also good to kind of understand, the entire flow from sales all the way to product, all the way to engineering, all the way until we deliver the product, all the way back to sales. So you want to understand the entire cycle as to why we can how we can better understand, how a company works, how a business makes money, and how we, each one of us, despite all the differences, all the frictions that we run into in every company, every team, there's actually some lessons that we can dig in and kind of learn from. Hence, it's actually very, very good to go here. Andrew Lau is a former software engineer, a former VP of engineering, a former CTO, and he's now a CEO. So he has seen things. He has taken seats from both sides of the story. So it's a very good opportunity to listen to him. Right after that, we will have another small talk, this time with Bok, the head of startup ecosystem at Google as well. Many of you surely knows him. I think well, the three of us kind of know him as well, I think, hopefully.
Yes, he's my boss.
Okay. Bok, if you're watching, we know you. Thank you. So that will be in September 15. Afterwards, another career talk, this time by Nandini from Facebook. This is very similar to Bruce Wang's talk. If you have been with us a few months ago, Bruce Wang from Netflix spoke about his software engineering career. Now we have Nandini, who also has somewhere around 20 years of software development experience, from a software engineer all the way to a director, and now he's engineering manager at Facebook. So it's a very good opportunity where you can see, people moving around various companies and the lessons they learned along the way. All right, let's go for it, Ryan.
All right, so let's jump into today's event. So this is what most of you are here for. So today's theme is going to be about mentorship and in the context of a tech industry. So we're going to be just having this chat between the three of us in terms of our experiences as well as what we have seen in this area. Right. So maybe we can jump in forward to the next slide. So we're going to do a simple intro of these three hosts today. So maybe let's start off with Julius.
Okay, like who am I, right? Yeah, normally in our events we don't kind of introduce ourselves. That's a tragedy. Hello, I'm Julius. I'm a VP of Engineering at Hubble. We are a construction tech company in Singapore. Kind of working with Chasin and Wei Yan for a while already in Big O. So many of you who has been following us for a while, you probably have seen this ugly face for a while. So yeah, good to see you all.
Next, Jiaxing.
Yep, Jiaxing from the Google Developer Relations team. I didn't realize we were doing this introduction, so I introduced myself earlier. But yeah, I guess that's about it. I joined the team back in May last year, so it was already during COVID. So unfortunately, I haven't gotten to host a physical event in our developer space. But hopefully that's gonna change soon. Yeah, over to you, Wei Yuan.
All right. So when it's my turn, now I realize I also don't really have much to talk about. Maybe that's why we don't do a lot of these introductions. But hi guys, my name is Wei Yuan. Similar with Julius, I'm also working at Hubble. Over there, I'm a engineering manager, and currently I'm also holding a position, GDE, for cloud in with Google. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. All right, I think let's jump into the meaty topic for today. I think those are the parts that probably most people want to listen to. But I think maybe just to warm up a little bit to, for audience as well. Okay, just to mention, for anyone who's in the audience, if you have any questions or anything like opinions you point out, no, do just put them in the chat or we'll try and highlight them if possible. And yep, let's start off with actually a question not related to today's theme. I think just to liven up the atmosphere. All right, so we did talk about this question before we came in today, and so I just want to give context to everyone that this guy is the only guy that's married. So you have like another two who are not married over here. So okay, this question, I think very simply, I can choose. I mean, I would choose B. Okay, I'm not saying I don't have any choice, but B is my choice. So true love, hooray! But what about you guys?
I have a question. Is your wife watching this?
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. I will start first because I think Julius has a very interesting response to this. Jeff says his true love is $1 million. I would rather have $1 million because I just think that true love is too unpredictable. Your true love can change their mind the next day or a few years down the road, but $1 million cannot. Not personally.
It's true love.
Yeah. Okay. But Wei Yuan is definitely B. I'm curious to know what the people watching this would choose. A lot of people choose A. So yeah, it does seem like most people will go for $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, like, why do you want to keep a person alive? You can just have the 1 million to yourself, right? Unless the dollar depreciates so much that it has no value. So, I mean, even if it doesn't, yeah, maybe if a true love is somebody from a richer country, right, who has no use for $1 million, wow, I should marry a billionaire. Oh my God.
So your true love needs to have $1 million. Is that what you're saying?
Should be $1 billion.
Billion.
Yeah, $1 billion. Yeah,
we have
at the end of the day, it's all about the money.
Yongshen says B. I think she's the first one.
No, there was a few before that. I think another person. Yeah, Arthur Simon mentioned B as well. Yeah, for the Bs, I know that's probably like this is like probably 20%, but
you can grind for $1 million, but you can't for true love. Okay.
We should set up like something like a polling region for this in the future. I think it'd be fun to see the overall opinions. I think like for those who have used either IO before, like if you search on Google either IO, I think you'll find that like there's this site that also asks questions like this, and they will say like how many % of people are on either side.
Mm.
Yeah, Wei says
Harrison?
C. Yeah. Harrison says, why not both? Yeah, why not both, right? And Jeff also said the same thing.
But what if you have to choose one? Yeah. Like I guess maybe if we were to make that question a bit more extreme, which is like if you if you have $1 million, or let's say if you are well to do, that means you don't need to worry about money, and then B, you have true love, but maybe you just have enough to get by. I think which one would you guys choose? I think this one is a little bit more contrasting, I guess.
Wow. I mean, I think money is more important than human beings, right? Okay, just kidding. Um, I'm going to get stoned, man. This is mentoring. This is not.
To the future wife of Julius, welcome to this video. I'm gonna send this video
Oh
to her in
my,
the future.
yeah, you cannot delete any records from the internet. Oh no.
Yeah, I'm with Julius on this.
Justin, okay.
All right, so I think yeah, probably most of the audience I can see it's still going on A. So, well, our submit defeat, but true love rocks. Okay, so maybe let's get into the actual meaty topic of today. So, all right, on mentorship. All right, so let's start with a question to set the ground first. I think this is probably what for most people, like maybe to understand the theme today and what exactly are we going for. So let's start off by answering this question. What does a mentor mean in the context of a tech industry? And maybe I'll start off first. So I did wrote a little bit down just to make sure, like, not get stage fright and forget about stuff. But in general, like what I thought when I first wrote down this question was that I sort of felt that this is basically, let's say if I were to find a mentor in the industry, what I want to find is someone who has walked the same path as me before, someone who's similar, perhaps in character, in certain ways, in terms of the journey as well. Like, it wouldn't make sense if let's say if I'm someone who's in the tech industry and I'm like basically I'm doing a lot of technical work, but then I'm getting a mentor who's in the business area. Like, that doesn't gel well. So basically, someone who has walked the same path and someone who can provide me with the direction in terms of both the hard skills, technical skills, as well as the soft skills in this area. So this is how I would define, or rather how I would want my mentor to be. What do you guys think about this?
I think similar to what you shared, I would be looking for someone whose experiences I want to learn from. So if they are a bit ahead of me in that journey, and someone willing to invest in your growth, irregardless of how it sort of benefits them. So I think there's also a lot of people talking about how like mentors and managers are pretty similar, but I do think they are not the same because for managers, they have your department goals, KPIs to meet. So sometimes your personal development may not be the main aim during that period of time. So I think your manager can still be a mentor, but they should not be the only ones. Yeah. What about you, Julius?
I think in my case, it's a bit more nuanced. I think it's because for most of our viewers, right, and even for myself, not sure for both of you, most of us probably don't have mentors. Some of us definitely have, but I probably am speaking, for most of us who don't. In my case, I don't have a mentor also. So, in that sense, right, like I think mentorship could be seen in one way, which is a person-to-person relationship, and another way could be some form of transferring of ideas. Like at the end of the day, the mentee, right, whoever the mentor is, and regardless of what kind of quote unquote relationship the mentee has with the mentor, the key benefit that the mentee enjoys in the mentorship relationship is the ideas that are passed down to the mentee. So I do think that in the context of the tech industry, right, given that the tech industry, according to, I think it was Kent Beck, one of the signatories of the Agile Manifesto. I think it was Kent Beck. If not, it's Uncle Bob. So he said that the software engineering industry, right, in general, is in a state of perpetual inexperience. Here's the idea. You can see the number of engineers, right, over a period of several decades that, the tech industry is booming. You have more and more people who are coming in as junior engineers, and you have people who used to be seniors and have now transitioned out of the engineering reality. They could be doing their own product management work. They could be running their own company. They could have kind of retired and be like a house husband or housewife, those kind of things. So because of the influx of newcomers, right, you have less and less people who can actually mentor in a personal capacity. However, you have a legacy and a rich collection of books, podcasts, blogs, and all those ideas that can be transmitted to us. And the lessons that has been learned throughout the ages, right, throughout the decades, can still be applicable to us to this day, despite having a lot of new frameworks coming out and a lot of frameworks also becoming obsolete. The general foundations of software engineering, the theories remains the same. So I think that it's can also be something to think about in the industry.
So maybe we can also take a look at what the audience is mentioning. So I can see a few very interesting replies from the audience. So we one from Jeff. Hi, Jeff. Yep. So a mentor shares insights of problems, leading solutions based on one's own experience. So yeah, I think very much in line with what a few of us have been saying. Like basically has been the same area, and I think also maybe towards what Julius mentioned. Basically if someone has sort of departed from a certain area of expertise, is a bit hard to mentor for that area. But that mentor can also serve as long as the mentor is still within the area of expertise. Definitely, they can help out as much as possible. But I think Julius did. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the just now for what you have mentioned, I think you also sort of touch a little bit on sort of how should I put it, non tangible mentors, if I were to put it this way. That means non human mentors. You talked about online podcasts, websites, and all that. So maybe if you can dive in a little bit more about what you think on basically what exactly is a mentor outside of a person, actual human being? Like, would you consider, let's say, Steve Jobs to be considered as a mentor for many people, even though he hasn't directly mentored anyone, but because of the materials that he has written over the years?
Wow, that's a very deep question. I think to take a step back, right? All of us have our own strengths and weaknesses. So, say for example, it can be argued that Steve Jobs is mercurial. So he has a type of character whereby like you can both be a superstar and uh, a word that I cannot say in this kind of situation in the
Oh,
same day. So that's how Steve Jobs works. He changes his how shall I say, his opinions really really fast. So one can argue that if that's the kind of mentor that we want to see and we want to emulate, it could be a bit tricky. On the other hand, Steve Jobs also he has he's very idealistic, and he has a very good taste of design, and a kind of design that will make money. So one example would be that I think it was in somewhere between 1996 to 1998. He came up with he worked with can't remember the name of the advertising company. So he worked with an advertising company. So basically, what they did was they showed various heroes such as Albert Einstein, the first woman who flew a plane, can't remember the name, and several others, Martin Luther King, a few others. And the idea was, as many of you might know, it's the think different advertisement. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels. And when you look at how he sees the world, right? And this is actually something that many CEOs should emulate. um, People usually become CEOs because they are misfits. They work in the company, they're not happy with the company, they're not happy with the direction, they're not happy with things that are happening. And so they stop working in the company, they start their own, they recruit their own people, and they try to make a difference. If you're a CEO type, then Steve Jobs is a very good person to emulate, because you push people, you push the envelope, and you try to create something to, in Silicon Valley lingo, to make the world a better place.
Now, I think Julius touched on a very interesting facet of like what exactly is a mentor, and I think basically this is about the reasons like why would want to emulate a character like that, even though you might not be directly communicating with him or her. So maybe to use that to transit to the next question, what would be a reason or top 3 reasons on why you should have a mentor or why you should get a mentor? Now I'm gonna list down like some of the reasons that I've written down. Or maybe Julius, if you want to start first.
This is the part where I should point the arrow to Chasin.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to hug the conversation.
Wei, do you want to go ahead first?
Okay, maybe I'll just say like mine. It's actually not very long, so I'll just use it as a sequitur in. But do add on to like maybe if you have any other reasons. So I think the first one I keep mentioning this just now, which is for the experience. Basically, you want to get a mentor who has walked the same path because you don't want to in some sense, you don't want to make the same mistakes. I think okay, maybe as a mentee, right? I wouldn't really say that I have that like in hindsight, I know that this is gonna happen. I don't have that level of hindsight. But I think the idea that I don't really want to fall in the same traps has happened there. And I think in part, I would say that I'm lucky that I do have mentors who help me not get into those traps. Or they show me things that I should do or things that I shouldn't do. And I learn from those experiences. So that's one of the reasons. Second reason I would say is for career opportunities. Earlier on, I think Jia Xing mentioned about how managers and mentors don't intersect, right? But if they do intersect, this is also a good reason, basically if let's say you have a manager at the workplace that you get along very well, you ask this guy for a lot of like, life advice, work advice, essentially this guy is your mentor. And part in this interaction, sometimes if if your relationship is going really good, and you show that, let's say if you're doing really well at work, your manager knows that you want to, let's say if you want to climb the career ladder, it might be a very good reason for him to say, I know that him or her to know that, I feel that my mentee wants to go in this direction. I'm confident that I can drive and motivate this person to go there. So career opportunities, and that's also another good reason. And the third part, I don't want to dive in too much, but definitely networking. So I think we can't understate the importance of mentors that, like, as a guy who just entered his early 30s, my mentors are people who are probably in the mid 30s, or even late 30s, early 40s. These people are people who have been in the industry for much longer than I am. So they definitely have a lot more context towards knowing, maybe let's say a different person that let's say open source project I want to work with, or different opportunities essentially. Yeah. So those are some of the reasons. Okay, I'm not gonna hog the limelight as well. Maybe I'll pass it over to. What do you think, Jia Xing?
Yeah, I think the first point you mentioned, pretty similar, learning from other people's mistakes. I love this quote that says, it's good to learn from your mistakes. It's better to learn from other people's mistakes. So yeah, if someone else has made that mistake, learn from that. Yeah, you don't have to make the same mistake. So yeah, whenever I chat with people, even with like my managers, I try to ask them what their regrets are. I mean, you don't need to get them to share if they are not willing to, but professionally, they would have certain things that they wish they did earlier or they would have avoided doing. So finding out from them what those things are so that you can learn from that, that would be helpful. But also there's like repetitive experience versus valuable experience. So just because someone is in an industry for 20 years doesn't mean that that person is the best that you can learn from, because they might be doing the same thing for the past 20 years. For example, as a teacher, for example, if a teacher has been teaching for the past 20 years and do the same thing each year, you can argue that the teacher has like 1 year of experience because it's just repeating whatever has been done since year one. But if someone is teaching and every year they review what goes well, what and improves, and I would want to learn from the second person instead of the first. Yeah. What about you, Julius?
Wow. I think a lot has been said. Maybe to add to what you have said, right? I actually agree with many of the things that you said. And I think that, especially in tech, right? This is not true in Taiwan and Philippines, but this is true in many parts of the world, such as Singapore, whereby you have more men than women. And it's the contrast is quite big. And what I notice is that the moment a female software engineer enters the team, the dynamics changes significantly. And it changes in this way. A lot of studies have shown that women have a much better skills in empathy than men. In fact, a study that was done in 2015 shows that women are better managers than men. And the primary predictor of a good manager, one of the primary predictor, is actually empathy. So, uh, because most of us are men, right, in tech, uh, what happens is that men, we are egotistical, whether we want it or not. If you are one of those who has very little ego, God bless you. Please continue to do so, because most of us are egotistical. That's just reality. So, one example is this. Many of you probably know Eric Schmidt or have heard of him, former CEO of Google prior to Sundar Pichai. Eric Schmidt, before he became the CEO of Google, right, he was already a big shot in Silicon Valley. He was, I think he was the VP in Sun Microsystems when it still existed. And then after that, he moved to Novell, became the CEO, and then he moved to Google. And there was this guy named John Doerr. Many of you probably don't have heard of him, but he's not as popular as Eric Schmidt. But basically, he's one of the most popular uh, venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. So John Doerr was the one who introduced Eric Schmidt to Larry Page and Sergey Brin. And within a few months, right, of Eric Schmidt joining Google, John Doerr says, "Hey, you need to meet this guy. The guy is Bill Campbell, former CEO of Intuit." And John Doerr wants Eric Schmidt, CEO of Google, to be coached by Bill Campbell, who's a head of marketing. He's not a software engineer. Of course, Eric Schmidt has a degree in engineering, but Bill Campbell is not. So if I'm Eric Schmidt, right, I'm like, what can I learn from a marketing guy, right? And then, so he same thing. He was like, I'm not going to get coached. I mean, like, you know who I am. I can do my stuff. Blah blah blah. But then it turns out that Bill Campbell turns out to be the most influential coach in Silicon Valley history. They wrote a book called The $1 Trillion Coach, whereby Bill Campbell actually mentored people like Steve Jobs, Susan Wojcicki, CEO of YouTube, as many of you might know. Steve Jobs, I did say Steve Jobs, Eric Schmidt. He mentored Jeff Bezos. He prevented Jeff Bezos from getting fired from Amazon, and now he fired his way all the way to space. Um, you have all these people who was mentored by Bill Campbell. So what's the lesson here? The lesson here is that the coach doesn't have to be better than you, or the mentor doesn't have to be better than you, but the mentor has to be able to see the things that you don't want to see and hear the things that you don't want to hear to help you become the person you want to be. That's the mentor. So it's always good to have a mentor because of this. Can I add one more thing before we move on? Um, I am a software engineer, and somehow, some way, I lost my track and decided that maybe I should do philosophy also. So hence I did. So I studied philosophy for a while, and it's quite interesting because in philosophy, you don't make money unless you argue with people. And I had to argue with people. And when you argue with people, what happens? try to go to a meeting in a company and start an argument, oh my God, it's going to be chaos, for the most part, you know. So in my school, we are uh, we are evaluated based on how kindly we argue with our opponents. So guess what happened? Um, I learned how to be kind to the people I disagree with, and it's something that you could almost never learn anywhere unless there's a forcing function. I'm saying this because, like, in an ego war in software engineering, we have very strong opinions everywhere, right? It's very important for us to respect the people who sit at the opposite side of the table. Treat them as you would like to be treated, and I think that's real mentoring. Um, we are shown how to do it, we are evaluated how to do it, and we are pushed to do it. I think it's something some of the things that we can learn only if a mentor comes in and made it happen. So I think that's a long answer, but hopefully it helps.
I think we can also see like there are some responses in the audience as well in terms of uh for the reasons. I think we have from Raju. Yeah, definitely making mistakes. Without a mentor, I think you might fall into a trap of making the same mistakes before it happens. And yeah, I think we have another one that I think agrees with you, right, Julius?
Oh yay, best
Mm.
friend. Love you lots.
But I think this is
But
a good segue. Oh, sorry, okay.
I was just going to say if like if you want to answer also the question, please do share in the chat. I think it's a good opportunity for us as a small community to kind of help each other and like kind of give thoughts also. Yeah.
Julius will kindly disagree with you. He won't be aggressive.
I,
Kidding,
I
I'm
can't
kidding.
I can't comment too much about that because like he's my boss. Okay, the next question. But I think this is a really good secretary to the next question, which coincidentally, boom. So what's the thing that most people misunderstood about mentoring? Maybe you can start first with Jiaxing.
Yeah, for me, I would think that it has to be an official relationship. Like you have to put a label on it. Yeah. So, for example, like similar to dating, right? You know, there's always the awkward phase, and then it's like, are we officially together or not? I feel sometimes mentoring people tend to bring the same idea. They want to officially ask people to be their mentors, but like what Julius mentioned earlier, right? Like things like books and podcasts. There's so many resources out there that we can learn from, and even the people that we speak to, you don't have to officially acknowledge them as your mentors. But I think, there are so many people in the community or even in your professional network that you can learn from. So it doesn't have to be an official relationship.
Okay, I guess
Yep. Oh, go ahead, Julius. Sorry.
yeah, I guess I can comment on that as well. Many of you probably have heard of Netscape. It's also dead now. If you're too young, I will be very sad if you don't know Netscape. But anyway, like Netscape was founded by Mark Andreessen. Mark Andreessen currently he's one of the most popular VCs. I think the most successful VC in the world, if I am correct. He is part of Andreessen Horowitz, as many of you might know. Um, so there was an interview that was done several years ago in Stanford Business School. Um, so here's what he said. We all think that we need to have mentors, right? Which is cool and stuff like that. But there are instances that you actually don't want a mentor, and this is when let's say you want to start a company, right? You have a cool startup idea, you want to do it, you would think that as a VC, right, as a VC, venture capitalist, you would want all your advices or most of your advices to be heard by the CEO because they're throwing money to the startup and you want your money to be worth it, yada yada. Um, Here's the disadvantage of the VC that the CEO will never have. The CEO has spent years, hopefully years, of experience about the product that he or she is building, that the VC doesn't have. So if the CEO is going to respond to the VC about his advice and say, "Oh, yeah, it's a good idea, yeah, yeah, yeah," Mark Andreessen says, "Okay, that's a warning sign. It means that the CEO doesn't have the backbone. Number one, number two, doesn't have the mental fortitude to be strong enough in his idea and believe that it will work." Um, and the CEO, as Jasin has mentioned, right, could be a 1 year experience, even if he spent the 5 years of time developing the product. Or he or she could have like 5 years of experience over the 5 years that he tried to deliver to produce his business to where it is now. So Mark Andreessen says that that's the time that you don't listen to mentors. If your mentor is giving you advice on things that uh, is not going to be helpful, um, then you should not have a mentor in that area. So we don't always need a mentor. In many cases, we do, but these are some of the areas that we don't need. Another one is this. Many of you probably have heard of Airbnb. The CEO was Brian Chesky. Many of you probably have heard of LinkedIn. CEO was Reid Hoffman, and now it's a different person. What if you're coming up with a new product that nobody has ever done before, right? I mean, who wants a stranger in their house, right? Nobody believes in Airbnb for the most part, but in the US specifically, many people who actually travel to the US or the different parts of the US who doesn't have the money to actually pay for a hotel will say, "Can I crash into your house? Can I sleep for 1 day?" So it turns out that Airbnb was very useful for this type of this category of people. Now they IPO'd, you know. So these are some of the things to think about. Yeah.
I think those are really great answers. Misunderstanding about mentoring and like the reason why I think Julius did mention, yeah, one good reason why you shouldn't have a mentor. When you know you don't need one, yeah, I do agree. You shouldn't look for one, especially one that might make you pull your hair out. If let's say, like I think your example of the Airbnb one is really good. Like if you get a mentor and then he's saying that, oh, this idea is never gonna work, then he probably would never have been successful. Like if you follow those advice. Yeah. Okay. Actually, in the comments, we have had a very interesting question. So let's jump into that one. All right, so I think this one is very much contextualized locally, perhaps more. Let's take it as Southeast Asia / Singapore. So I'm gonna read off the question. Would you say mentoring is less spoken among locals? In his opinion, I think simply as the product of our system, it seems like Singaporeans are more competitive and less mentor focused. That's a very interesting question, and maybe I'll just answer a little bit. Then I'll hand over to my fellow host. I do somewhat agree with this sentiment here that it is a very competitive industry, and I think maybe in some sense we are somewhat like in the traditional Asian sense we are somewhat discouraged. I would say maybe to trust someone too much and to put them in a position of plotting your growth. And maybe also another aspect is that we are also very used to the transactional relationship, if I were to put it that way. Like for example, if I want to do better at school, I will pay money to go for tuition and do that. I mean, I've not done a lot of tuition, but we have a $1 billion tuition industry, so that's how it goes. And also because mentoring is a very Western concept, so to speak, I guess it's a lot more newer around these parts. But I do see a lot more young folks doing this nowadays. Like I recently found out that one of the interns that I was helping to manage, that he or she actually has a mentor at like that age, and this is like what 25 or younger, and I think it's definitely gonna get younger and younger from here. I think more and more younger folks are exposed to that westernized mindset. Maybe I'll pass on the baton to Jiaxing. Like, what do you think about this?
Yeah, the second part of this question, right? Singaporeans are a little more competitive and less mentor focused. I would assume you are referring to like fewer people are willing to be mentors from this statement. Not sure if I'm inferring it correctly. I think there are a couple of reasons. I think Wei Yuan mentioned the one that we tend to be a bit more transactional. I help you and then I expect something back in return. Whereas I think mentorship, one of the probably a misconception is that the mentor gives more and the mentee benefits. Yeah, but I think the second reason is also resources. I don't think there's a lot of mentorship resources available in the Southeast Asia region, at least not that I know of. But I do know of this startup called Future Lab. They are based in Malaysia. They are a mentor-mentee matching platform. So yeah, I've been hearing people being involved in that platform, talking to people, mentoring others, and also looking for mentors. So if you're looking for mentors, that might be a good platform to check out. Not sponsored, just sharing good stuff. Yeah, and if you're looking to mentor someone, do check that platform out as well. And yeah, I think we have someone asked, Sean said, how to go about finding mentors for fresh grads. You can check out that platform. And I mean, that's one that I know of. But I think I think you will also agree, Julius and Wei Yuan, that sometimes people just reach out to you on LinkedIn to ask if you are open to mentorship. So I think if you know, if you see people who seem interesting, who seem willing to be part of a community or mentor others, there's no harm reaching out to them. Yep. I think Julius, you have a lot to share for this.
Wait, can I jump in very quickly just to say one thing? Because I think Jiaxing mentioned a very interesting point about reaching out on LinkedIn or any other social channels. And I just want to say, okay, so this one is actually a little bit tied to the last question about a common misunderstanding of mentoring. And I just want to say this, that there's a big misconception that mentoring is a one-way street, like it only benefits the mentee. And it is true to a big part of the I don't want to say industry, but rather this relationship, that usually it does go that way. But I think the misunderstanding here is that it can also go two ways. Let me put it that way. Let me put it in one instance. So I think some of you might know of this guy called Simon Sinek. He's actually a bestseller for a few of the books that he wrote. One of it being Start With Why, which I've been thinking about reading, but stuck on maybe like just the first chapter for some time. Beyond that, if you search up on him, search Simon Sinek mentorship, you'll find a video of him talking about how he met one of his mentors. And basically the idea was that there wasn't really that relationship, like what Jiaxing mentioned earlier on. There wasn't like a label on it. I asked him to be my mentor and he's my mentor. It was basically just him talking to this guy, and this guy basically giving me advice over the years. Sometimes you invite him over for dinner, they'll have meetings together. And then one day he decided to ask that guy, are you my mentor? And then the guy was like, oh yeah, I guess I am. And the two-way benefit here is that because the mentor enjoyed his company so much that he wanted to willingly help him to grow in his career. So yeah, I think that's one thing I want to mention. In terms of when you're reaching out, to potential mentors, people that you feel that you want them to plot your journey. Do take some time to actually get to know them better first. Talk to them, ask them out for maybe tea or something. Maybe in the case of this pandemic, maybe just do online meeting. Don't use the mentor word so early. I think that would be what I would say. Know the person first, because you might not know if this guy might fit into, like, maybe he would be able to help you or not. And the other way as well is you have no idea whether the guy might also enjoy your company as well. So I think it's important to give them the chance to also be able to decide this through like maybe a series of short meetings first. Sorry, but over to Julius. I think Julius definitely has a lot more to contribute over here.
Oh, I mean, both of you, I'm going to just hold it like this because I think my voice is a bit muffled. Hopefully this way is better. I think both of you has shared quite a bit already. But maybe to actually share some real world experience, right, and hopefully to also understand, not understand, but kind of support what Sean has been asking and how Chasin responded. Um, it's quite interesting in a couple of ways. So uh, we indeed have people reaching out from LinkedIn to say, hey, can you mentor us? Can you mentor me like that? And in a relationship, right? Relationships are usually preserved and improved if you're meeting the needs of each other. And you would think that as a mentee, you're the one benefiting, right? Okay, but that's not really true. Here's the reason why. Um, People, how do I put this? A research was done, and it's called intrinsic motivation. Many of you probably have known this, especially those who study psychology. One of the most important predictor of how someone will continue to do things for free is meaning. When a person feels that what he or she is doing has meaning, then he will do it for free because he's being rewarded for it. So when you mentor people, what's happening is this. Number one, you're investing in somebody else's lives. If they do well, then 10 years later, 20 years later, you'll be like, I think I'm smart, you know. The other thing is this. Um, if someone reaches out to you, hey, can you mentor me? You'll be like, wow, this guy is enlightened. He knows where to find a mentor. So you have all these motivations depending on the mentor, whereby you actually do it. Now, for fresh grads, it's actually very, very easy for a fresh grad to find a mentor. Easier than somebody who's in the profession for many years. And I'll tell you why. Many of us in the profession wants to actually invest in the lives of the younger generation, believe it or not. You just talk to people deep enough, and deep down they'll be like, if I can invest in the next generation, I will. And what's the best way to invest is to exactly tell the person that, hey, I'm a fresh graduate, I know very little about the industry, but I want to learn. Can you help me? Uh, what this does to you as a fresh grad is that it distinguishes you from every other fresh grads who didn't ask for help. Usually, when you ask for help, people are willing to help. Usually, not all the time, but usually they have a spare hour or two to actually invest in you. Now, people are busy, right? People are very busy. However, it doesn't mean that you cannot get into their time slots. In fact, all of us have the same number of hours in a day. However, what's different is the level of importance each activity has. And if you're actually fulfilling the need of the mentor, then you're in. If you don't fulfill the need, then it's okay. Go to the next mentor and to the next mentor, and then you'll find one eventually.
And to add, build lasting relationships. I think even if one day you might find that your experience might have outstripped the mentor, I think it's still good that you stay in touch. Perhaps your mentor be able to get you, like you might transition to the stage to be a mentor, and your mentor might be able to get people to go to you instead. And this could be a good learning experience because learning the mentor is also a very different ball game altogether. Sorry, okay, I'm now looking at the chat. I think there is a follow-up question. I'm gonna throw this here. Follow-up question for young grads who are trying to find mentor because we understand that it's a two-way relationship. Or how can we show our willingness? How to convince? I guess this question, if I were to infer it, how do you convince that mentor of the value that you are to mentor you? Yeah, I hope I'm describing it the right way. Julius?
Okay. I
How
think
would you be convinced? Maybe to put it a different way, how to maybe a mentee that has convinced you to let you mentor him or her.
I can share two examples actually, and I think it's also I think I should be able to cover Sean's follow-up question as well, and I'd be interested to hear Chasin and Wayan also like your experience yourself. So I can share one experience first. Um, in Google, they have what you call a developer student club, and the idea is, for many of the schools, you can apply to be a community manager or community lead for your school. Then you run events. Uh, I didn't realize that there's a developer student club in NUS, in NTU, in SMU, yada yada. Like the big schools in Singapore. However, there was one guy from a small school in Singapore who reached out, and he's the first one who reached out. And then we were like, "Huh, he is so smart." Okay, that was a joke, but he reached out, and then we were like, "Of course, we are going to help you. Like, you're helping your friends, you're helping your school, you're helping people to actually learn stuff, and you know that you don't know, and we are here to help." The Google developer experts are everywhere. If there's a particular subject matter that we cannot find an expert for you, then we'll find somebody else, right? What it does then is that, like, for me, it probably doesn't benefit me much apart from like me feeling good, being able to help people. But the thing that I see from this fellow is that he's willing to pay it forward, and hopefully some of the people that he actually helped out can pay it forward and pay it forward. And now you have a multiplying effect of one goodwill that you have done to one person, because now it multiplies, it's scalable. um, what's a good decision? A good decision is an agent of scale. A good decision is an agent of scale. A good decision is, once you take that action, once you take that decision, then it's scalable. It creates that value. Most decisions are not like that. So that's a very good decision for the mentor. Here's another example. Most of us learn programming probably in college. Many of us also, out of hobbies when we were in high school, probably in primary school, we played a little bit. There was one guy, I don't know if he's watching right now. If you're watching, please say hi. He came to me and he's like, "Can you mentor me?" And I'm like, Then I check his profile. Then I'm like, "Oh, he's not even in uni. He wants me to mentor him, and he wants to do internship." I'm like, okay, this is very rare, right? And it turns out that he's super smart. We let a Google developer expert in the company interview him, and he passed with flying colors. Then we let the CEO interview him, and the CTO was like, "Oh my God, where did you find this guy?" I'm like, Vigo development. So how did it turn out? Well, it turned out that it's important for us to invest in people who may not have the resources or the capacity to work in a company or be part of an environment where they can nurture their interests, they can nurture their skill set. So for us, it's like, hey, okay, Hubble is not Google, but we can offer things that Google can provide, and likewise, Google can offer things that Hubble can provide. For example, in a small startup, then you can get to learn more. In Google, you can go very, very deep into a particular technology. You can also network with very good engineers in various verticals, which Hubble cannot provide. Hubble has a wider range of Google developer experts, for example, community leads, for example. So then, given the network that he can generate while being at Hubble, then hopefully what he has learned in our company, he can share with others as well, and hence the multiplying effect. So I think that it does benefit us. Oh, hi, Jason. Hello.
This is
Well, I
the
hope that.
legendary Jason that you all speak of.
Okay, Jason, you're very popular. I just wanted to say that. So to answer Sean's question, right, to kind of wrap it up, right, the mentor feels good also, because he sees that what he or she is doing has a multiplying effect, and if you're able to provide that, then it's a win-win.
Now, in terms of a win-win relationship, we have a very interesting comment. Again, I'm picking this because this actually fits nicely to our next question. So I'm just going to show the comment. So one way is for the mentee to produce revenue for a mentor, and this is a very interesting. Like this is I'm not like laughing at this question. I mean, this is a very serious thought that people have, and so going into that, would you pay for someone to mentor you? Now I'm very interested. I'm very keen to understand what you guys think, because I do have a very what do you call it? I don't okay, not controversial, but probably a very contrasting view from you guys. But maybe okay, to start off with Jiaxing first. If what do you think about paying someone to mentor you or being paid?
I don't mind being paid, of course, right? But paying someone, I would firstly think of why I need that, right? So if you have a very specific goal in mind, and this person's experience, you can almost replicate it to your own life. So for example, I love bubble tea, right? And if one day I want to start my own bubble tea empire, I want to expand it across different regions. And if I know of someone who has been there, done that, I will pay him. I will pay him or her to mentor me. But if it's more like generic, if it's more generic career wise, it's not really specific. I don't have a specific goal in mind. I don't think I would pay for someone to mentor me. Yeah. What about you, Julius and Wayne?
Wayne, do you want to answer first? I just don't want to hug the microphone.
No, I wanted to say a joke, but I guess I missed the moment by muting myself. Okay, since I'm also mentioning it, I was about to say, oh, with this, we're gonna announce big old bubble tea empire. We're starting. Our shop is gonna be in Yishun. So okay, no, I'm just joking. I'm curious to hear what Julius thinks. Because I think Julius, you are mentoring in an organization right now. You are. I don't think you are paid, but the organization does charge the mentees, right? And I think it's called Plato, is it?
Yeah, that's true. So many of you might know that I actually am a mentor in a, okay, not many of you, but some of you probably know that I'm a mentor in a company called Plato. It's a Silicon Valley company whereby they bring in people who are actually willing to mentor various people in the tech industry. So are they willing to pay? I guess like, yeah, there are people that are willing to pay. And maybe let me speak from both angles. First, as a mentor being paid. I generally tend to refuse payment. There was one startup, for example, who asked me if I can mentor their team. Then I'm like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that. And then the CEO was like, okay, how much do I pay? Then I'm like, no, you don't have to pay. And here's the reason why. The moment you accept payment, right, it becomes a duty. And when it becomes a duty, it becomes a drudgery. So, and it's no longer an investment. Of course, there are certain professions, professionals that actually ask for payment and all. But Bill Campbell, the example that I said earlier, also wasn't paid, and he intentionally doesn't want to get paid. And the primary reason is because the moment you add payment in the mental real estate of the mentor, what happens is the payment now becomes a factor on the data that he provides, and now it's no longer genuine. You can expect someone to be genuinely helping you if you're not providing a payment back. So I tend to not accept payment as a mentor. Now, as a mentee, uh, why do people pay for mentorship? Few reasons. I mentored a CTO in Plato. She was a CTO of a AI startup, and they're going. They just finished their Series B round, if I remember correctly, Silicon Valley company. And she was like, all right, what do I do with my company? I'm an engineer. I don't scale teams, but we have money. What do we do? Then I'm like, okay, what's the problem? And then she explained the problem. And I was like, okay, I think at this point in time, you need a VP of engineering. Okay, maybe just to kind of give you a rough background as well. CTO, VP of engineering, what's the difference? The CTO usually is the one who was hired as the first engineer of the company. That's a CTO. What's the VP of engineering? The VP of engineering is the professional that was hired to scale the team. So which one is higher in terms of position? Of course, it's a CTO. Which one is higher in terms of experience? It's a VP of engineering. It's a VP of engineering that scales the company. It's a CTO that starts the company. So now you have the money. Now you want to compete with your competitors. You want to grow your market. You need a VP. Um, it took us 1 hour of conversation to provide her with data that would have taken her like months and months to gather, and probably even years of mistakes. Um, Here's another example. I'm mentoring a software engineer from Snapchat. Not sure if he's watching, probably not. I'm mentoring an engineer from Snapchat. Um, Normally in Plato, the mentorship platform, the mentoring only lasts for maybe about 2-3 sessions. Then most of it are done. And the engineer from Snapchat, we are working together for more than probably about 4 or 5 months already. And here's the difference. Uh, he doesn't have that much real estate to actually work with people who can actually advise him in the same way the mentor does. So we work with so many different problems in and out of the company: scalability problems, software engineering problems, relationship problems, salary negotiation problems, all sorts of issues in the company that you probably don't and are unable to actually relate to your friends in the company, your bosses in the company, but you can actually relate with someone who's totally disconnected with your company and are able to help you in that. So that also saves him a significant amount of time and resource to figure things out. Now, does it benefit me? Of course, it benefits me. I learned that, oh, okay, this is how Snapchat does things. This is how Facebook does things. Because they also inform me, okay, this is the problem, and this is how what we are trying to solve. Then I get certain intelligence also on how these companies work. So then I get to learn things that I learned, and I can apply in my company also in my context. Yeah. So should I pay? I think in general you should. It will help you significantly decrease the amount of time it takes for you to actually get the same amount of experience and lessons.
I think that's a really interesting perspective to pay, but I think for the mentor not to receive payment, but to get value from things like experiences that he or she might not get from that the same problems that are faced by the mentee. That's really, really awesome. Okay, we're running a bit low on time, but we still have a few more questions. So let me move on to the next one. Let's see. All right, so I think to touch on maybe a more touchy topic, uh, bum, how do you deal with disagreements? So let's say that if you're in the audience, you have identified your mentor, you have you are working with this guy, he's mentoring you, and then one day he or she disagrees with you and you hate him or her. What do you do? I'm gonna arrow. Okay, maybe I'll start with Julius first, and then after that to Jia.
I talk a lot, no? Okay. I try to keep it short. Uh, First, as a mentor to a mentee, all right? So as a mentor, okay, maybe let me go back a bit. When Eric Schmidt was hired as the CEO of Google, here's what he made very clear. This is their company, meaning Larry Page and Sergey Brin's company, and not his company. This is their company, not mine. Um, it's important for the mentor to establish that demarcation line, whereby this is the mentee's life and not the mentor's life. Why is that important? Many of us, because of our ego, wants what we want to be what the other person wants. That's not good. This is their life and not the mentor's life. So if the mentee disagrees with the mentor, let it be, get on with life, and move on. Uh, Now, on the other hand, if you're the mentee, right, your mentor, most of them has an ego. So you need to be respectful with them to say that, I'm so sorry. I heard you. This is exactly what you say. But if you don't mind, I'll do it my way. And please forgive me, yada, yada. Go on. There's and of course, the mentor needs to understand that it's your life, yada yada. It's okay to disagree. In fact, in disagreements, new perspectives show up. Um, here's an interesting story in Google. Um, way back, before Google IPOs, it was a small company making millions of dollars. And what do you think a typical startup CEO wants in life? Well, it's to have their faces in magazines, their faces in TVs. Back then, there's no YouTube, yada yada, right? You want to be famous, so on and so forth. So what happened was, a few months before Google IPOs, Larry Page and Sergey Brin showed up in Playboy. And as you might imagine, it didn't sit very well with the investors, and the IPO went into jeopardy. So Google would have been screwed all over many times back then. Um, so they went back to Eric Smith, and Eric Smith, and then they were like, "Oh no, did we mess up?" And Eric Smith, deep down, he was like, "Of course you messed up." But a better answer would be, "No, it's okay. I would have the same. I would have done the same thing. Uh, that no problem. We'll fix this." So, as a mentor, when your mentee screws up, they will screw up. If your mentee screw up, tell them that's fine. Life goes on. We fix this. We move on together. Same thing if you're the mentee, your mentor can screw up also, and they will screw up. If they screw up, tell them that's okay. We continue with life. We move on together. Yeah. Um, I wonder if, yeah, I guess going to pass the microphone to Chasin or Wayan.
Maybe I can butt in here. So I think that's a really interesting answer in terms of picking up pieces after disagreements. For me, I have a contrasting opinion on disagreements, and I think it's always, I think, okay, one of the words that's usually thrown around a lot between mentees and mentors is, why is he or she so stubborn? Why are the views different? And I feel that that's not I strongly believe this is not a good way of looking at things. When you disagree, brushing it off as, a personality quirk, or, being stubborn, it's basically showing one thing, which is that you don't have the information to understand, why is that the opposing party, be it the mentor or mentee, is thinking that way. I think just to put this comment over here that Harizwan in the audience is mentioning, I think this is really, really important to what I'm going to say, which is to find out why the disagreement is in place. Usually, if there's a disagreement, and if it's a disagreement between two sane people with, like, reasonable views that they are most concerned about, that disagreement usually it started because person A doesn't know what person B concerns are, and vice versa. But once you put everything out on the table, then you'll be able to better appreciate why each of you have a different look at the same matter. And once you have done that, it's already a direction, a path towards a better goal, because now you know that, okay, there were some things that I didn't know about, that he or she knew about. And there were some things that I knew that the other side didn't know as well. And because we put all our concerns on the table, we can craft a middle ground. Okay, usually, okay, sometimes middle ground is not always the best solution, but in a lot of cases, the middle ground can be a good place to start with when you have to now look for a solution that solve the issues that are brought up on both sides. Yeah, so this is something I feel is very important. I think disagreements will always happen, but how you deal with it, like getting more data, trying to find out what's the best solution coming out from there, I think that's the more important position to take. Okay, I'm going to jump to another question. So this is going to be our last question for today, and I think this is probably something that's more personal to each of us. So let's talk about challenges in terms of finding mentors. So maybe to us, both Jiaxing and maybe we can start with Jiaxing first. What challenges do you think people face in terms of when they're finding mentors?
I think one of the main ones is just where to start. Yeah, and I think earlier on, Sean was talking about how, like, as a fresh grad, it might be challenging to sort of to think of how you can make the relationship mutually beneficial, mentor-mentee relationship. I think my advice would be to look for mentors through meetup groups or like even Google developer experts, because it's a certain kind of people who will organize meetup groups, who will organize GDGs events, because the whole idea is paying it forward, being part of a community, knowledge sharing. So people who invest their time in all these activities, they are already looking to give back to the community. So when you reach out to these kind of people, I would think they will be more likely and open to mentoring someone. So yeah, if you are looking for the pool of mentors, I would suggest take a look at our GDEs directory and reach out to them through LinkedIn. I think that's Wei Yuan. If you are interested in cloud or software engineering, he can do everything. Please add him on LinkedIn. Reach out to him afterwards. I think that's the first step. Challenges people encounter. Cool says join tech communities like Data Science Singapore. They are having a meetup in September. Join their Facebook group. It's like over 10K members.
How about you, Julius?
Oh, what are some challenges, right? I think if anything, the major challenge is actually the fear of rejection. Nobody wants to be rejected, right? Okay, I take that back. Most of us don't want to be rejected. Some of us likes to be rejected because okay, we're not in sales, right? In sales, rejection is actually an entry point for more negotiation. So that's the difference. Anyway, let's go back to finding a mentor. The major challenge is the fear of rejection, and you will be rejected. You will be rejected a lot, especially when you cold email or cold message a person. You are likely going to be rejected, and that's fine. Uh, Looking for mentors is very similar in succeeding in business. You can screw up 99% of the time. All you have to do is to be right once, and then things will suddenly move in fast track. Do it often enough, and then you will move in fast track in many different verticals. Um, this lesson is actually something that Mark Cuban keeps saying in business. You only have to be right once. You can be wrong everywhere else, and that's fine. So don't be afraid to look for mentors. You'll be rejected. That's fine. I might say no also if you reach out. Like it's not like you reach out, but like just in case, right? I might not be able to mentor also because it's not in my area of expertise, or at the current capacity I don't have time. But that's fine. If you get rejected today by one person, maybe tomorrow the person might actually accept because the situation is different. These things happens in negotiation all the time. So if it happens in negotiation, it happens in business, it will happen in mentoring as well, and that's fine. So keep trying, keep failing, enjoy the process, and hopefully you can fast track your career and your personal life.
I think maybe to add on to what Julius mentioned, and I think it's really interesting when he mentioned about being afraid of the rejection, because I thought that I know that it's true that we do, like it's like when you are let's say for a guy confessing to a girl or girl confessing to a guy, you build up a lot of emotions to the point, and then it happens. If it happens like positively, it's good. If it doesn't happen well, you get very depressed because things didn't go out the way you think it to be. And I think that for the same, like let's say looking for mentor, if I were to add in like advice there, don't take the same mentality there. uh I think I mentioned it just now, look to build that relationship with that mentor first. I mean, it doesn't even need to be in a situation where you use the M word on that guy. You call him your mentor, call him or her your mentor. Yeah, so I think that's what probably will help, because as long as this person that you know is consistently giving you good advice on how you can run your career, or in terms of how you manage your team, let's say it's in a leadership role, he or she in a leadership role. Yeah. Okay, so I think looking at this question, I think probably one other thing that we should also talk about is gender diversity in our current industry, because I think it is very much true that there is definitely more guys than girls. There's like things like bro culture and things like that. Maybe to also pass the baton back to Jia Sing. What do you think about this?
Yeah. I have a lot to say about this, but I'll keep it short. I just want to show a comment from Phone. She says, Wei Yuan is a good mentor. So Phone is a graduate from our Google Women Developer Academy that Wei Yuan and Julius are mentoring as well. On that note, right? So yeah, the whole reason why we had the Women Developers Academy is one of the main reasons is to connect women developers to mentors, and also have a community of women in tech that they can get to know. Yeah, so about gender diversity, I think it's no secret. There's a lot more males compared to females. And in a sense, I think we are all a bit biased in that we lean towards people who are similar to us. So we would want to learn from people who are similar, and gender-wise, I think it's one of the challenges people encounter is just finding people who are similar to them. For example, if I'm a woman developer, I'm looking for a female CTO, but yeah, if you think about it, I don't really know who are the women CTOs out there. So it will be challenging for them to look for a mentor. And yeah, the options are very limited. So that's one of the challenge, diversity. And also the bro culture. I think maybe in Asian society is not so obvious, but I mean in Silicon Valley we all hear about the bro culture and the toxic work culture. So but I think for us, it's still something that is not talked about a lot. Like for example, in the workplace, sometimes it's informal. I think informal networks, or like outside of the workplace, it's easy for women to be excluded because after work they have to take care of their families, children responsibilities, housework. It falls onto the responsibilities of moms most of the time. If a child falls sick, for example, would the dad or the mom have to take the leave? Most of the time it defaults to the woman. So that's one challenge, I think. Ku says we call each other boss culture. Yeah, we do. Everybody is a boss. So I think trying to cultivate an environment where it's diverse, especially in gender, that's one thing that we are very, very passionate about. So I think you would see that in a lot of events in developer space, whenever we get speakers, we make it a point always have women speakers, because we want the speakers to represent the tech industry. So to more non-male dominated meetups and events. That's all I have to say.
Just to add on a little bit more to what Jia Sing mentioned, for the guys out there, if there's a female lead in the workplace, or engineer, or someone else who you do respect, and you want them to be a mentor, don't be afraid, go ask them. I think as a engineer working in this industry for this, I don't want to say many years, but at least in these few years, I like to say that the gender barrier, like there isn't really much of a guy can do, a girl cannot do type of thing, like, and vice versa. Everybody is like, you can write code. It doesn't matter whether what your gender is. And I mean, I would confess that like I had someone who acted as a position of I mean, I didn't use the M word again on this person, but she was somewhat my mentor for the first few years that when I was joined the first big company in my career. And I grew a lot as an engineer because of that. I grew from like I would say a 2-bit gangster engineer, from like someone who's a bit more technical, someone who could become a lead because I learned from her. And if you're there watching Aisha, I mean, I know like probably people already mentioned this out there, and yeah, I do see her as my mentor for I think a good few years when I was in this company that we were working at. So definitely, I think don't worry too much about things like gender. If there's someone they respect, do uh, interact with them more, ask them to be your mentor, build the relation. It will help benefit you, in the long term. And with that, I think that's probably a very good time for us to do the closing note. So because we're running off overtime, in fact, up to 9:30. I'm very thankful that like, a lot of you are still with us. In fact, I think it's almost 100% of the people who were with us. I think we can see on the user meter over here. And the number is actually like has stayed around the same. Yeah. But let's do the closing note. So okay, Julius, I'm gonna share your slides back in. Okay, so
Okay, I suppose I'm the one to introduce or like kind of remind again. Once again, thank you everyone for being part of today's show. We are very very happy to to have you engage with us, and we hope that in subsequent shows that you continue to support the show and talk to us, and we'd be more than happy to try to include as many of your comments as possible in the subsequent shows. That said, the next event will be with Andrew Lau, CEO of Jellyfish. Again, I did mention that it's very important as software engineers. I think for most of us, we are software engineers, right? To understand how things look like from sales downstream to engineering and engineering upstream to sales, how the entire interaction looks like, so that we can make better and better decisions along the way. So it's more than just software architecture and so forth, unit testing and so forth. We can also understand a lot of the business behind why we are doing what we are doing. The next thing, we will be talking to the king of Google developer space and the startup ecosystem at Google, Vok. This is to appease Vok so that he hopefully can hire us to Google. Sorry, just kidding. We are staying at Habo. But yeah, this will be fun. Like Vok kind of work in various different countries actually. So we can actually learn from Vok, the different means by which we can engage in a multicultural setting and how we can adjust, with the various cultures that are part of our organization, which obviously in Singapore, there's a lot of, it's a melting pot of different cultures. So please do join us again in the next small talk session. And in October, as we did mention earlier, we will be inviting Nandini. I would say that Nandini is one of the most amazing women leaders that I have met. Uh, she can put into context many of the things that we only hope we could, like even for me. So I hope that you become, you be part of this as well. It's very rare for us to get women speakers. Nandini is one of the those ones, and hopefully you can come and support her and support the show, and hopefully learn with us. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you once again, everyone. Bye bye. Good night. Bye bye.